What was the most challenging part, do you think, that the move from Richmond to RVA to the 757 was? Do you think there's any challenges or things that were easier, or what was more difficult in terms of the culture?
Yeah. So, you guys know the area pretty well, as do I. And I think the biggest challenge is that, Richmond and Hampton Roads or 757, it seems like a natural transition, and it is because we're so close, and a lot of our businesses need space in Hampton Roads and they need space in Richmond. But in Hampton Roads, each city operates so differently. And I think, we're starting to work together more, and there's a lot more collaboration. But how business runs in Newport News versus Norfolk versus Virginia Beach, even for somebody that has grown up here my entire life, they run so differently. The clientele is very different. The things that people are looking for is very different. And so, I think the goal was that it would operate just like our Richmond locations. And that's definitely been challenging because we've had to tailor it to each location.
So you hear a lot of people talk about the differences of cities and things like that. Is it really that different? I mean, can you give me an example of something that's remarkably different? Because to me, I feel like that is constantly just chatter, right? And so it's like when you were in Tampa, there was Clearwater, there was other cities right around there. It's just kind of the way that things happen. And so with Richmond, there's Midlothian and I don't know, other parts of Richmond, but like, is it not the same like that? Like what's really the structure that's so different that people continue to deploy as a reason as to things are so complicated here?
Yeah, I think, in the larger areas, so Norfolk and Virginia Beach are a little bit more progressive. I think people are more familiar with co-working than in Newport News. I think in Newport News, it's been tough because a lot of people don't quite understand what co-working is or how it could fit in for them. And we're still doing a lot of educating in Norfolk and Virginia Beach as well. And I think there's also the progression of where businesses are in their business is very different. So sometimes people will come to us and they're just starting out and they're really excited and we want to help them. But at the same time, we don't want to get them in a situation where maybe they're not as far along as they should be. And maybe they aren't ready to take that big step of a first office. And so I think we find that businesses sometimes seem to be a little bit further along depending on the city. And maybe they have a little bit more financial means in certain cities to make that big leap towards a private office.
Yeah, I think that another thing that's really that's challenging about this area is the fact that we don't have there's not a downtown. So Norfolk is very lucky in the sense of they have Granby and the cool things that Zack was able to do when he had Hatch. It was just a natural place where there was a lot of density and that a lot of people gathered. No pun intended there. There's just not. That's the big challenge that we have with our area is that there is not those downtown pockets that you see in traditional cities. And we hope that the tech center is going to establish that as that continues to get built out. And city center, is that what it's called? Town center in Virginia Beach?
Yeah, town center in Virginia Beach. And, to your point, I think one thing we noticed too is, and I saw this in Tampa with all the different cities, everybody's so divided. I live in downtown Norfolk. I have family in Newport News. I really have family everywhere. I go to Virginia Beach all the time. So I hop around all the time, but we have so many people that, if they don't spend a significant amount of time in that area, we're still having to work really hard to make sure they know about us. So, if they haven't spent time in tech center yet, or, we've had people say, well, I didn't know you guys were in downtown Norfolk. And we're like, man, how did you not? Our name is on the building. We're doing all these things to get our names out there. We go to a lot of networking events, which, pre-COVID, that was a little bit more doable. But, sometimes we find ourselves saying like, how did they not know we were in downtown Norfolk or in Newport News or town center? But that shows us we still have a lot of work to do. And I think part of that is that people tend to stay in their bubble of the area. And then there's the ones like us that bounce around to all the cities. So it's trying to figure out how do we reach those people that aren't bouncing around.